Doing some more research into the global geopolitical situation, and this is obviously a study of history. So what's going on right now in the scheme of things, the conflict between the United States, the West, EU, Britain, UK, versus the powers of Russia and China, which is basically communist origin, communist bloc, the East. So this has been heating up, and people are calling it the return to the Cold War, which is like the end of a phase that they want to describe of the past almost 20 years, which is no Cold War. So if it's going back to a Cold War, that means it will be an arms race. It will be sour relations between, especially the United States versus Russia. Now, how much of this is real or contrived? In other words, a conspiracy by the higher powers to deceive the rest of the world? We really can't answer that, but I'm going to suggest it to you as you're doing your research. So let me just give you a few things. And there's a small matter of Sarah Palin being brought up, because in 2008 she had made a eerie prediction during her campaign that we've got to watch out for Russia and Putin, because she warned he was going to possibly go in and invade the Ukraine. And so looks like she's coming out ahead of the game now, and possibly this is going to look good for the Republicans going into the next election cycle. But as you know, if you study U.S. politics, there is usually a give and take, a seesaw that goes back and forth between the parties, and that's a pattern. And you could see if for 8 years the Democratic Party has been in there with Obama, you would expect that there would be a Republican president taking over, and probably with the Congress it would swing also to the opposite party. So having said that, we are a little bit away from that, because the election cycle and the campaigning has not started yet, although they are talking about the foreshadowing with Rand Paul and with Hillary Clinton or whoever it might be. But in any case, let's look at the geopolitical climate, especially of Asia and Europe. But we're also going to have to throw in Venezuela, because that's the next in lineup. They want Venezuela to fall now that it's in a weakened state, and that, of course, because of Hugo Chavez is now not in power. And we basically can say through circumstantial wise thinking what probably happened to him in his untimely death. And now we have over there, who is it, Maduro, and fighting going on. Even today there was raging fighting in the street, which is reminiscent of what just happened a few weeks ago in Kiev in the Maidan. And now we have it going on because of whatever is flaming up, these anti-government protesters, and now the police are out in the street in the capital and all over in Venezuela having to try to quell this. So there's also a few other hot spots, and that has to do mostly around with China. But let's talk about the Ukraine. The vote just came out as of this weekend, and that's the Crimean region. The local authorities there have voted overwhelmingly, the majority, in favor of joining with Russia. That means reunification, because if you remember, the Berlin Wall came down in 1989. This is a huge thing in Central Europe and for Germany. And if you weren't around then, and a lot of music was involved with that going into the 90s, and then you had the dissolution of the Soviet Union as it was known, since basically the Bolsheviks' revolution, the assassination of the Romanov family, the whole royalty, the White Russia, in putting into power the Red Russians. And then you have World War II. It really solidifies after they fought and came out on top after the Third Reich was defeated and dissolved. So you have this long-standing established government going through the changes that it did around 1990, 1991, but this is not that long ago. So when you think about it, it's just over 20 years. But the younger people in Ukraine, the Kiev region where most of the people are, and then into the eastern side, which is around the Black Sea and going, of course, toward the other republics, that's Georgia and Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, all that whole area, Central Asia really, and you have not much of a memory for history. That's why I'm going over this. I have to tell you, what it's all about, because these people don't remember that they were a part of Russia, they were a part of the Soviet Union. And it's not been that long, so this reunification is just this back and forth, give and take, flip-flopping. It's not this huge, surprising, revolutionary, radical, surprising thing. It's very predictable, very much so. And what you have to see is that if the United States was going to come out on the winning end, like, what really was their plan if they would manipulate this, which obviously they did? Obama, the administration, Newland, little rats that they are, the oligarchs, the warmongers. Having said that, I don't think that I would do much better. In fact, I would be a lot more evil and strong-handed. But in any case, those rats are at it now. They're the ones who are in power. And fuck the EU, right? But what they did was set up this losing scenario, because they couldn't possibly hope to get Ukraine. So what is their strategy? What was their intention? To get the poor half of the Ukraine, just to push the borders a little bit over in favor of the EU? Well, we see that they got 35 tons of gold. That was airlifted out of there. 35 tons. So that's, depending on how you calculate the dollar or whatever, currency you want to put it into, the dollar value is anywhere from 1.5 billion to 3 billion. So, and that it depends if that's real gold, or if you slice into the bullion, you find that it's actually full of something else, and it's just merely like gold-plated, an outer coating of gold on the outside, but weighs how much it kind of should weigh. But if you put it on a scale exactly, you'll find that the weight is off. In fact, the melting point is way off. Once you melt through the outer layer, the thin layer of gold, you'll find that the inside is not gold at all, and it doesn't melt, not right away. The melting temperature is 2 or 3 times higher. So what is that stuff? Basically, they know where the fake gold is, and that was during the Clinton years. That actually was our wonderful former President of the United States who, Slick Willie. But anyhow, gold is not really the topic here. We're talking about boundaries, we're talking about shifting alliances, we're talking about, of course, everything is connected on the economic, it is a currency war. And basically, why did the United States think of doing this and influencing Europe, and now, pushing Merkel of Germany on a leash, you better watch out, Putin. Obama's going to give you sanctions, and Kerry, and of course what an idiot, McCain, real smug guy, isn't he? Literally saying that Russia is likened to a gas station. It's no better than a gas station out there. I mean, this guy, obviously shouldn't be a diplomat, but You know, he's practically on his deathbed, so who cares? But he seems to be the front man. He's just this rabid, probably on Viagra or something's getting him going in the brain, his little pea brain, actually. Yeah, his little, you know, oh, it was tortured. Yeah, right, you were tortured. Yeah, everybody else around you that time, that your peers, they don't say you were tortured. They know what torture is. You're a windbag. So, having said that, he is insulting the Russians. That shows you their level of desperation and frustration, because they're just getting the poor half of the Ukraine. And let me mention to you, near Kiev is Chernobyl. So who's going to take care of the problem in Chernobyl? Because the sarcophagus around the nuclear reactor, the meltdown, actually needs repairs. So that's quite costly, you know. And if you cut Russia out of the loop, who's going to be taking care of that? So, you know, that's more leakage, more contamination. It'll leak into the atmosphere, and Europe has to worry about that. Asia, it's wherever the wind is going to blow. Yeah, that still exists. That's as bad as the bleak future that we have with Fukushima. Well, no, I don't want to say it's as bad. Fukushima is way worse, apparently. So, United States is either A, real stupid that it set this up and can only gain as much as it apparently is gaining, or number two, they're working in some kind of a deal, a total conspiracy with Russia to do this, to partition up Ukraine. I lean more toward option B. That looks to be what's going on. So all this huffing and puffing and all this is really just to put on a show. You know, I don't buy into the propaganda on either side. I kind of put it all together and see that they're working to divide and conquer the rest of the world. Okay, there you go. Putin and Obama have met multiple times within the last 2 years. They met in Cabo San Lucas, which is very near to where I am, at the end of Baja California. They had met in various other places, and the G summits, the G20, G8, or whatever you call them, the major events, countries, the bullies of the world. And you know, they discuss these things. You know, it's not. But at the same time, you can see it's a love-hate relationship, because where does this precipitate from? Snowden? Could it be Edward Snowden? Could it be is that a red herring? Is that really what they claim it is? Like, Obama says, "Oh, I'm not going to go after some 26-year-old hacker." Yeah, you are. Didn't you just hijack the plane in Europe with the leader of Bolivia? And aren't you putting pressure on the WikiLeaks guy? And pressure on the Ecuadorian president, who wants to give him immunity? And you know, he's going to be taken into Ecuador if you let him leave. So, you know, what's going on with all this stuff? Is that real, or is that contrived? How much of that is contrived? To what level? This is how they play the game. It's like a high-stakes card game. You know, they deal this all out, and Putin's been in there for a while. Obama's been in there, and, you know, Clinton's been in there, and he's still in there. So these people have not just one sitting. They keep going and going and going. I'm not saying that Carter's still in on it, and Reagan, he's out of it. His family's also out of it. But Bush, they've been in it. They've been in it for multiple generations now. So they are in it. It's almost like an American version of royalty that we weren't supposed to have. This whole thing, this idealistic premise that we've had since the Constitution and the Revolution and the Founding Fathers. You know, we're not supposed to have this stuff, but we do. Clintons. If Hillary Clinton would get in there. Oh, wait. I've already spoken my piece on that. You can search all my videos and look up Clinton and what I actually think about that clown. A vicious little clown. But let's talk about what is the global picture going to be? They're going to continue to partition the world. And by the way, the thing about Crimea that's going on right now, this is annexation. Okay? No, I don't know if anyone's using that word, but this is annexing territory. And this is exactly what Hitler did when he took over the Sudetenland, when he took over Austria. Poland, they don't consider annexing, it's considered an invasion, but there's very slight differences. Okay? Now, what's going to happen? We have to compare this to what I see, and also the economics comes in, because you got to look at the stock market and the currency and the trading that's going on. You also have this thing that's going on with Trans-Pacific, and it cuts China out of the loop somewhat for now. And I would compare this to like the 1920s. So what you have in the 1920s is you have this lull that comes after 1919, 1920, 1921. It's just like very little activity, just like, and in England, for example, which also Europe, you can compare it to it, huge unemployment comes in the midst of 1921 and 1922. Huge. Just huge. Bad. You can call it a recession. It was actually quite a bit of a depression. And how they got out of it for the next, 8 years, let's say. There's about an 8-year cycle there. 7 to 8 years. You had this huge upswing. So just pumping out, with this fractional banking, lots of loans, and lots of exploitation wherever they could go in the world. And it's basically the roaring 20s. So we're actually in the middle of that period because of the recovery. There really was somewhat of a recovery since the bank bailouts and this and that, too big to fail. What's been going on, not for the individual on the street, not for the common man, there hasn't been any recovery. It's actually gotten progressively worse slowly each year. But the overall recovery of the bigwigs and the corporations and the solidification of power with, the cable companies now, Comcast, Time Warner, and Rupert Murdoch, and, all of them, and every other industry, the indications are that they're more monopolizing. And what you have, basically, is this upturn since 2008, the real estate bubble bursting, that whole crash, 2008 to 2009, and by 2010 it was really on the upswing because of the manipulations they did in their boardrooms, backroom deals, one hand washes the other, just the whole collusion between these private captains of industry and the government, these totally corrupt government people. And Occupy Wall Street since then, Occupy movement has been co-opted, and if it had any real substance in the beginning, just like the Tea Party, that was gone within the first year of its popularity and being in the mainstream media. The MSM just totally creating it into this false movement that it became, and the propaganda. So you can't trust any of that. Anything that gets going, you can't. When you hear about something, it's, this is no. When you hear about something, it's nothing. It's not what it seems. It's actually the reverse. It's the opposite of what it seems. It's to fool you. None of the things that come out, except what I tell you, or whether it's someone underground. It's got to be underground that you don't hear about it. Then you hear truth. It rings true because it's not being promoted. They would never promote what I have to say. They would never. They never have. With my personality, with my energy, with my prolific, my connections and everything, they've never promoted it because I'm giving you the truth. You know that they're not going to promote that. So you're privy to something. You'll find out eventually. You'll find out that it's historical truth, and you'll find out that it'll be the biggest influence because it's what's most important. The deception right now will hold sway. But here's how they do it. They co-opt things, even these movements, as I told you. And this upswing of the economy is just to benefit a few, very few. Even the very few in Russia, the oligarchy in Russia. Yeah, it's not supposed to be an oligarchy. Yeah, it's supposed to be socialism. Yeah, it's supposed to be Leninist Marxism or whatever they call it now. The new Russia. It's not. It's just more of the same, twisted, distorted capitalism. That's what it is. It's the abuses, the major abuses of power that you find within rampant capitalism. And it's laissez-faire. It's not regulated. You don't have any strong leadership because the leadership is tied in with the capitalism. Of course it's not. It's like the foxes watching the hen house. Of course it's not going to work. So check this out. How long is this going to go on? We're now in 2014. I'm making a prediction that the upturn, this gradual rise where everything is okay, it's recovery, should probably go on for another, like, 4 years, possibly. 4 years. Maybe give or take a year. And what's going to happen is we're going to succumb to the biggest crash ever. It's going to make 1929 look like a duck walk. Is that how they say it? A duck walk? The crash is going to be huge. The currencies are all going to crash. That's why they're gobbling up the gold right now. That's why they took it out of the Ukraine. That's why they take it out of wherever they can take it out of. They're accumulating it and hiding it. They're going to seize all the gold after this crash because they're going to find that that's what people will take their refuge in. You know, it's a hedge. But guess what? After this crash that's coming in about 4 years, they're going to take that from you within a couple years after the crash. So by the time we get to, let's see, what do I calculate it would be? 2022 until about 2024, the amount of unemployment and destitution and the collapse of the global system will be in its final phase, and you cannot recover from that. Absolutely done deal. That's my prediction. And at that point, they will start to draw their lines as to where the all-out gun battles are going to be starting. So this thing in the Ukraine right now in 2014, this is posing. This is all orchestrated. They're aware of what they're doing, and all this threatening and sanctions and this is just nonsense. Okay, this is nothing compared to how it's lining up everything to go in the way that I've predicted to you. I've studied history. Take a look. I'm just going to give you the pages that I've been checking out. Ooh, look at the infinity there. That is. Okay, we've got trends here, stock market. Look at these graphs. Oh my goodness, do I study a lot of things here. We've got timelines. We've got Adolf Hitler here. You know, all this stuff. We've got Trotsky. Huge thinkers here. We've got Lenin. Yeah, let's take a look. They do a little animation of him somewhere here. Wait. Any case, there he is. We've got world government that I've been studying. We've got what happened, news. There's the middle of the Roaring '20s. Yeah, we've got anarchists. We've got Ukraine. Yeah, we've got Russia here. Russia and Georgia. Remember the invasion in 2008? Okay. What I expect to be happening specifically around the Ukraine thing is possibly there's going to be some vying for power over there, and it's going to precipitate the end of Putin's reign. And I couldn't give you any names, but I would think that there is one or two other players that may come up against Putin. Even though he's been successful in what he's been doing, I would even liken him to Lenin. But we have a Stalin coming up, who's in the wings. What's going on with Germany? You know, they seem to be friendly right now to all the rest of the EU, allies with Britain, allies with the United States in regards to the Russian problem, but that's not going to last. Okay, so Merkel is going to give way to whatever is coming next in Germany. Then we have to talk about China just to wrap up, because China is a big player on the horizon, and right now they're staying on the fence. They're neutral with the Russian thing, and I do not think that they're going to come out publicly and officially against this move on the Crimea and half of the Ukraine, because they can't. I mean, for them to say that, they know that they would be total hypocrites. Look at what they did with Tibet. Okay? So this whole Malaysia plane thing, I think, plays into that. Where is that terrorism going to go? What are they going to do with this Boeing 777? I don't know. I don't know if it still exists. I don't think it's a major factor. I think, like I said in my video last week, it's a wild goose chase. So listen, thanks for tuning in. And I know I've given you a lot of information here. I bet you could take any 1 minute in this and debate me on things or discuss, and feel free to comment. I don't know, I probably won't do any more geopolitical videos for a while after this, because I've just given you a whole prediction for the next decade. Will it get featured? No. Will a lot of people be able to see it? No. They'll suppress it. But if you've been able to watch this, I thank you. And keep up your studies. Keep your faith. It really doesn't matter what these nations do. We're looking at a future under one rule, and there's going to be a dominion, a great leader that is coming in. I can guarantee you that. So you make a decision what side you're on. Either the losing side or the one who's going to take over and solidify the harmony of the planet Earth.